30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in. It's a beautiful Tuesday in Nashville, Tennessee. Upper 70s, low 80s. You don't find that very often in August. Where I was last night is the hottest I have ever been for a night game in a major league stadium. Man, it was 15 degrees warmer in Atlanta than it was here, and it was downright stifling. I'm going to talk about the trip later on around 3 o'clock today, some interesting things that came out of it. However, given that football season is upon us, we begin as we do every day with Terry McCormick from Main Street Media. His Daily Titans update brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland. She wants to be your mortgage lady, and through the folks at USA Mortgage, that's very, very possible. Pick up the phone, dial her up at 615-969-4350. Let's bring Terry McCormick to our microphones. Terry, what is going on in Titanland?
Practices. They did, however, have the kickoff luncheon that they always have, prior to everything going on for the season ticket holders. So that went on in the, during the lunchtime hour. And now they'll board a flight this afternoon and head up to the Great White North to face the Vikings.
Terry, kind of give me maybe three things you think they want to accomplish up there.
Well, I think one of the things, number one, the offensive line, the first group had a pretty good showing in the one series that they played against the Chicago Bears last Saturday. I think they want to continue to see how that group is gelling and coming together, and they think they'll get a pretty good test from a revamped Vikings defense that's headed up by Brian Flores. Another thing is, I think in terms of what this team has, I think they probably feel pretty good about where they are in terms of starters, all across the board, even at positions where there's a little bit of question, like the offensive line or maybe inside linebacker. I think it's the depth is where they have some serious concerns. The second group of offensive linemen that were out there, quite frankly, didn't get the job done very well. Most of the sacks, all the sacks that were allowed, 8 of them came while they were in there. Some of those were on the quarterbacks for holding the ball too long, but they've got to develop some depth at some places that are key, like wide receiver, offensive line, edge rusher. They've got to have some guys who can step up and fill shoes if this team suffers injuries like it has in any way close to like what it has the last couple of years. And then the last thing I would say that they probably are looking for is for these two young quarterbacks to, one, get better, and two, hopefully one of them distinguish themselves to be the number 2 behind Ryan Tannehill as Malik Willis and Will Levis kind of battle through this process.
You think there's any chance neither one of them are the 2?
No, I think, look, George, one of those guys has got to be the number 2 quarterback because they have too many high draft picks invested. Will Levis isn't going anywhere as a second-round pick. You can't pass that guy through waivers. There'd be 15 teams lined up to claim him. And the way Malik Willis has improved and the athletic ability that he has, you're not going to pass him through waivers either, very likely. There would be probably, several teams that would be lined up to put in a claim for him. So they are going to be forced to have one of these two guys be the number 2 and the other guy probably on the 53-man roster as the number 3. I think Willis has probably taken enough steps forward that if he continues to progress and impress, he's going to be on this 53-man roster as either the second quarterback or the third quarterback. Levis is guaranteed a roster spot, so they can't afford to go out and get another quarterback unless somebody gets hurt. These three guys that you got, that's who they're going to roll with.
Terry, what you're kind of throwing out there sort of says, okay, Ran Carthon at waiver wire time when everybody cuts down toward 53, that you think he's going to have to be pretty active?
Probably going to have to look around on the offensive line, maybe safety depth, maybe inside linebacker, edge rusher. I think he's going to have to look around in a few of those places and see if there's anything there that's an upgrade over what he feels he has on the roster. Starter wise, I think they're okay, but they cannot afford any injuries right now because they are, if they were to lose yet another tackle, given what they've already lost, if they were to lose another tackle to injuries, it would be disaster on that offensive line. And the guard situation may not be a whole lot better than that. So that's where they'll be shopping. If there's an edge rusher, a defensive back that they like, they might add them as long as they have some special teams value. I would say that, they could put in 2 to 3 claims after cut downs are made.
Terry, good stuff. We'll do it again tomorrow. They're up in Minnesota. We're down here.
Sounds good, George.
Terry McCormick's Daily Titans Update brought to you by Lori Burnett Leland, who wants to be your mortgage lady. And through the folks at USA Mortgage, that can absolutely happen. So dial them up, 615-969-4350. Let's head to Murfreesboro. Kelly Holcomb, how are you?
Good, George. How you doing?
Doing good. Doing real good.
What do you think? I wanted you to ask Terry about the question I presented y'all the other day. If something does happen to Tannehill, are you comfortable with those two young guys behind him?
Not yet. I mean, I think, first of all, most Titans fans would say, unless they see just enormous stuff, that they're probably never going to be comfortable with Malik Willis. They know at some point Will Levis is going to take over this football team. Now, whether it's late this season or next year, who knows? Probably depends on the record. Today, not necessarily, but as Billy's going to go through the update and tell us what's going on in Indy, hell, I wouldn't be comfortable with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I would not either at all.
So let's start there, Billy, where a young guy, and look, he may well end up being great, but I saw him against Vandy, and he sucked, to be honest. Florida sucked. They were awful.
Yeah.
Near the end of last season, and now he's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Run through the story, even though I gave it away.
Yeah, it took just one quarter of the preseason for Richardson to solidify himself as the Colts quarterback. So they saw all they needed to see. Of course, Shane Steichen coming into Indianapolis. Apparently, he likes what he's seen from Richardson. But right behind him is Gardner Minshew, and he, I mean, he's a guy that they can easily plug in, and that'll happen. I mean, let's face it, Gardner Minshew is going to play this year. So maybe it's a situation where the Colts are sitting there saying, hey, we're going to give the nod to Richardson just to put it out there. But, hey, Gardner, buckle your chin strap. You're going to play this year as well.
Okay, Kelly, give me some thoughts. This sure seems early.
Yeah, it does. And I'm just sitting here kind of thinking about the fans. Like, what do the fans think? Obviously, you're going to get people to the games, but they're like, okay, so we've got a rookie quarterback. What is this, like a rebuilding deal where we've got to get him some game experience? Because the guy, let's look at it, George. I mean, he's only played 13 games in college. So he hasn't got very much experience of playing football. So it's I'm just that's kind of what I'm thinking about. Like what happens to Ryan if something happens to Ryan Tannehill like it did last year? You saw the Titans being the overall favorite to win the AFC South, to losing all those games in a row, and then them trying to struggle to get into the playoffs last year, and they didn't make it. So it's I don't know. I just think about a fan base of what, like, if Ryan Tannehill goes down, or what's happened in Indianapolis where they're starting a rookie guy who's got, he's got a lot of talent. We get that. He can run, he's big, he's physical. He made some bonehead plays in that first game. One I know for sure where he should have probably thrown the ball away, and he just tosses it out there. And you can get away with a lot of that stuff in college, but you just can't do that in the NFL. So I just think about the fans and where they're at, and I don't know. There's no more of the Steve McNair getting to sit on the bench for a year or so and allow Chris Chandler to play a little bit. It's just I don't know. It kind of boggles my mind. Obviously, the coach thinks he's ready, and obviously he thinks that gives him the best position, the opportunity to win games. And if we're going to have to go through these growing pains, we might as well do it now instead of later on. I guess that's what they're thinking.
You want the cynical opinion?
Absolutely. Let's hear it.
IRSAY. This has got Irsay written all over it.
Well, I mean, I've said that a lot of times. The guy holds the red pen. He's the one that writes the checks. He's making the money. So that's his prerogative. If he wants to put somebody in there, I know when I was in Buffalo, Mr. Wilson was still around, and I know that he would put his 2 cents worth in, and obviously what the owner wants, the owner's going to get.
Oh yeah. I've got a red pen too, but it's not the same.
That's right. I thought you were going to ask me because we talked about it the other day. I didn't know if I had a job today, so I guess I do.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
For now. I mean, look, it's TBD. It's subject.
You're always looking. You're always on the waiver wire.
You're one screw up away.
I know. Billy's kind of solidified. He's got a little bit of leverage because you and I both are not very good in the technical world, and Billy understands that. And Billy's just making executive decisions, and he's like, hey, screw it. The consequences, I'm just going to do it, and I'll just suffer the consequences later.
Hey, we've talked about leverage on this show.
He certainly analyzed that, didn't he? Billy, if I were you, I would move on to story number 2. It doesn't matter if it's the Ayatollah Khomeini. Move to something.
Story number 2, less than 24 hours after agreeing to terms with free agent running back Dalvin Cook, the Jets have welcomed back Breece Hall. So all of a sudden, the Jets have Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook back there, and on an offense that is starting to look pretty scary. And not to mention another running back in the NFL has found a home, Zeke Elliott, to the Patriots. So he's running not monster deals, though. I mean, these are 1 year, $8 million deals.
It has been a while since I have seen a running back deteriorate the way Ezekiel Elliott did.
You're right, George.
He's a perfect example of the running back position.
Yeah, the battering ram in year 1 and year 2. He looked like a shell of it.
Can't do it, man. It's just so much when you have to take on that many hits over a season and 2 seasons, it just builds up. And that's why, not the collusion, but that's why you're seeing the trends in NFL. You're just not going to pay running backs.
Fine.
Sorry.
Why are you laughing?
Oh, that was
because
a great line.
You like it when he turns it on me. Yeah. Well, I don't blame you. I would too. Do you have a third story?
Third story. The Braves have called up Vaughn Grissom.
Yes.
And I don't know how noteworthy this is, but I don't know if Arcia is not hurt, is he, George?
Not that I know of.
Okay, I saw that.
What did they?
Well, I'm trying to read into it right now.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you knew anything about it. I guess not.
I mean, I was just at the game.
I would hope you know a little bit more about this than I do.
Probably not much.
Great report, George.
Thank you.
Vaughn Grissom, they called him up ahead of their game tonight, lost out on the shortstop job. I'm just trying to figure out why they called him up.
Well, who did they send down?
Nicky Lopez
Really?
Wow. No.
Actually, no, I don't think it was him.
Because he'd had like 5 hits.
I'm not
in 2
seeing.
games.
I'm not seeing who they sent down. I don't. That's
Okay,
why
I'll try to look at it during the break.
I thought that was something you'd be all over.
You got one more?
Oh, somebody texted in. Albies hit the IL.
He did, but I thought they
why.
did this yesterday. So they moved Michael Harris into the 2-hole, and they could have moved me into the 2-hole. It still would have worked.
No. Don't go far, George. You ain't ready for that. Also,
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying even with the automatic out, there were a lot of holes there last night.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Let's move on.
That's really it today.
That's it?
The AP poll was released yesterday. We had of course, a pre-recorded show.
We're telling people that
Billy, you revealed it yesterday, George.
Sorta.
What do you mean, sorta?
I never said this is a pre-recorded show.
Oh, but when you say, Kelly, by the time this happens, I will be in Atlanta.
Yeah, but I could be on air Plasmo.
Wow. Broadcast excellence you're seeing right now, folks. That's awesome. Way to go, Billy. Way to give away our secret. That's awesome.
So is this a Jim Shoe operation?
Straight up Jim Shoe. But I'm part of it. I'm part of it. As Tom Moore said, you're part of it, son. You might as well enjoy it.
After the break. Tony Basilio is going to join us from Knoxville. I got a great story for him that I learned last night from David Cutcliffe, who joined me down at Truist Park. We will talk about that story. We'll talk University of Tennessee football. Get ready. The season is upon us. Next. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
As a lot of you know, our show is now more than a year old, and that's a great testimony to some of the viewership that we have had from you all. So a big thank you right there. If you're new to all of this and you're wondering, how do we see the show? Here's some of the ways. Of course, you can watch it live 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the 3 biggest ways are Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, if you're working or can't watch the show live, you know what? All this stuff is archived in podcast form through 2 different ways. Apple, Spotify, that's the way you do it. You can go Apple Podcast or Spotify, and you're probably sitting there saying, George, you don't know what any of these mean. Well, I'm learning. I can at least spit it out now. Hope that you will continue to enjoy our show, because as football season revs up, we've got some great things planned. Thanks for being with us.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is fun. It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over. Less than 3 weeks until Tennessee takes the field on Saturday of Labor Day weekend here in Nashville, Nissan Stadium, against the Virginia Cavaliers. Knoxville Sports Talk Show host Tony Basilio joins us for his weekly visit. Tony, I have got a Tennessee football story that you may know, but then again, you may not.
All right, hit it.
Okay. So last night, David Cutcliffe, who now lives in Birmingham, met up with me, and we went to Truist Park to see the Braves and the Yankees. He had not been to the new stadium, loved it.
Yep.
In the course of the evening, I asked him, I said, how did you end up at Tennessee? Here's what he told me. He was a 23-year-old high school head football coach down in Alabama, and Johnny Majors made what I guess was a recruiting trip down to see one of Cutcliffe's players and came away really impressed with how organized Cutcliffe was. And at some point, Majors said to Cutcliffe, I need to meet you in your office when this practice session is over. Well, Cutcliffe's initial thought is, oh man, I have done something seriously wrong. When in fact, Majors went in and said, how in the world did you learn to run a practice this good at this age? And Cutcliffe told him, said, I've been around a lot of people at the University of Alabama. I've tried to learn a little bit from everybody. Majors ends up telling him that day, get ready for a phone call. I am going to hire you at the end of the year. And you know what? Johnny Majors did.
Wow.
How about that?
Changed his life.
Yeah.
That's amazing, man. That's a great story.
I had never heard
about the thing about Cutcliffe, thinking about that, was Fulmer with Cutcliffe was Fulmer, and without him, it wasn't the same thing. And it was, people said that when Cutcliffe came back after Tennessee's losing season and they won those games before he got hired at Duke, and then inevitably Fulmer got terminated after Cutcliffe left because it went back to being sort of as it was. But they said the tempo in practice, the organization in practice was a lot better when Cutcliffe was there. So that makes sense, George.
So the funniest line, we'll get to Tennessee football here in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Last night, Mark DeRosa was doing the game on MLB Network, and he's a former University of Penn, if you will, quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets Cutcliffe going on, how quick does a quarterback need to release the football? And Cutcliffe tells him, it absolutely got to be out in 2.5. And DeRosa says to him, not in the Ivy League. He said, they're not as good an athletes. He said, give us an extra second, 3.5.
That's awesome, man.
It was
I saw
really
a thing
fun.
with somebody from the Ivies the other day, George. They said, we're the one league. It's staying together. Nobody from the Ivies jumping anywhere. But, I hear that you and Frank Core are big buddies. I'll tell you this. Frank Core kind of finished his career in Philly. And the way he carried himself up there, my buddies in the media say that he remains one of the more popular guys that have worn that uniform in recent years. Class act.
Yeah, Jeff knew his P's and Q's.
Mm-hmm.
He had two parents who were educators.
Mm-hmm.
His mom taught Matt Olson.
Oh, wow.
Who all of a sudden is challenging to be the National League MVP.
Yeah.
Taught him at Parkview High School. So I'll pass on the compliment. I know he would appreciate that.
I love that guy.
Tell me what's going on with Tennessee football so far. Who's looking good?
Yeah.
Who are you worried about?
So far, George, the best thing about camp is only one injury of note, and that's to Cooper Mays, who's Tennessee's center. And that sort of destabilized their offensive line. I wrote about this in my blog today over at tclub.team. The real concern for them internally, and they're putting their best foot forward publicly, because there's two things that go on in football. There's what goes on behind the scenes. There's what you tell the press, and they're telling the media, hey, kind of nothing to see here. They're really concerned about their offensive line, and we're a couple and a half weeks out. And the issue is that some of their depth guys that they were counting on just haven't joined the party as of yet. On the other side of the football, they have a collection of youngsters that they've brought in, guys that they've signed, who are, I was told, not a whiff in the bunch. Which, if you can say that right now, that's a great sign. Now, they don't know how many of those guys are going to contribute early on. They do think they've got some guys, and they get towards the back part of the schedule, they can introduce some of the freshmen, but none of them have really jumped off the page, with the exception of Arion Carter from down in Smyrna, who has just been a revelation. And it's been one of the better players in camp. In fact, a couple of the veterans on the offensive line have pointed out, just unprompted to the press here, hey, this guy's it. I mean, this guy's got a motor, and he hits hard, and so they're going to have an impact from a freshman linebacker. In a perfect world, they would have had a couple of the young guys in their secondary come in here and really push and challenge some of the slower veteran players that are back. Tennessee secondary at times last year, George, looked like that old game of electric football that we used to play where you turn the board on and, you got the safety over there grabbing. Yeah. And you have to be of a certain age to get that, but it's not good, when your safety's in the middle of the field turning around because the board's vibrating and somebody's going by him. But the thing I heard, and I heard from a couple different people, so I wrote it today, is they don't think there's a whiff on the defensive side of their signees, which is a great sign. What's it mean right away? Who knows? But, what it's going to come down to is, can Mays be back by the Florida game? Can Tennessee's offensive line be good enough to win at Florida with Joe Milton? And right now, Tennessee's offensive line, I'll be honest with you, has me extremely concerned.
Let me go back to the defensive side of it, where you've painted a really pretty picture. Is the day and time of being able to get away with redshirting a kid over because the kid can look at the coach and say, screw you, I'm in the portal the first minute that baby's open?
Well, I mean, yes, but I think, and Kelly can kind of speak to this, I think what it comes down to is, I think you've got to be honest with kids and manage expectations. And one thing I'll say about Josh Heupel, people say, well, how's this guy done this? His predecessors were not good. Well, not so much Pruitt, but the guys before Pruitt were really good at talking down the kids. And if you want to turn a kid off in today's day and age, don't be successful and talk down to them. This guy is really good at treating people professionally. And by that, what I mean is they're pretty good about managing expectations. This is what you can expect on the front end. Hopefully, if you do these things and meet this threshold, you'll get a shot on the field. I think some of those young guys, probably when they get into camp, outside of Carter, and there might be a few more, but probably it's a little bit overwhelming at this point in time. Even the guys that go through winter practice, because you're just not developed yet. But they do think they've got a bunch of guys that can develop. But you bring up a great question and a great point, which is you don't want to develop people for other teams down the line. You don't want to develop players for other programs.
Oh, yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah.
Kelly, jump in here, and if you've got an opinion on the whole red shirt thing, fire it out there before you start with Tony.
I don't know about that. I just like what Tony said, because I can remember being around some coaches that you could just tell up front they're phony. I mean, they would always use coach speak. And the guys that I enjoyed being around, the guys that I like, the coaches, and I think everybody's like this. We're like this, are the guys that tell you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard that about Josh Heupel. I've heard you have to. It's a different age now. That's just the way it is with the transfer portal, and we have to come to the realization that you may have to recruit your own kids, but you have to be honest with those guys. And I think it doesn't matter where they come from; they just want you to be honest with them.
Yeah.
And I think that I've heard that from so many people up there that it's just changed the culture at UT. And obviously they had the year that they had last year, and they're looking for another year. But people just want you to be truthful with them, whether you like. That's what I always tell people a lot, because they say, well, you're a negative guy. Well, don't say I'm negative because I tell you the truth. Now, it's your job if you can't handle the truth, just like the old Jack Nicholson and A Few Good Men. I mean, you can't handle the truth. So I'm going to tell people the truth, and I think that's huge for today's sports.
Well,
Greatest
the other
movie
thing,
scene in history, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
No doubt. The other thing, though, about football that's always gotten me down through the years, and Kelly, you'll appreciate this, is generally when I visit with, because we're not allowed to see the stuff anymore. Like it's, media people go in there and watch them stretch. I have no interest in going and watch somebody stretch. I mean, I'm sure that's exciting. I'm sure that's exciting to somebody. That does not speak to me. So therefore, you have to call folks, and you've got to rely on your sources, and that's fine. Because I talk to a couple people that are there all the time, whose opinions I respect. Well, generally, when they tell me on the front end, this person can play, this person can't, I don't know what it is about that sport. Now, guys do develop. We'll agree on that. All these positions. But sometimes you look at an offensive lineman and you go, that guy has zero chance. And I've talked to players down through the years, and they say you walk out on a field and you go, oh, that's the guy that was highly recruited. He can't play. Like it takes you 2 practices or that guy over there, if he works hard, has a bright future. That is the strangest thing about the game of football to me. Kelly, I know people are listening to us and they don't believe me. And I'm going to ask you, have you found that to be true too, where you can look at guys and go, that guy can play or that guy can't? And generally it's right.
Players always know, Tony. It's really funny because my agent used to tell me that. He's like, no matter what's going on in the building, players always know. Players always pick up the vibe of a coach. If a coach is phony, players know. If a guy can't play, players know. I can remember me, and this is a long time ago, and I got to play in the Tennessee-Kentucky All-Star game, and there was a guy on the defensive line, and he was a third-team All-South guy. He's from Memphis, and we went up there to UT in practice for the whole week and went to Lexington and played Kentucky when they had Damon Hood, and that's when Bill Curry took over there. But this defensive lineman, he was third-team All-South. He looked the part. I mean, he was gigantic. He didn't even know how to line down in a stance. And he was, I think Tennessee signed him. He never made it because he couldn't play. You can just tell by looking and watching the guy, like the dude looks like Tarzan, but he plays like Jane. I mean, it's unbelievable. And players always know. You're absolutely right, Tony. They always know.
So when I heard yesterday, one of my sources say to me, there's not a whiff in this deal, I think that's pretty significant because generally in one of these classes, you're going to have on that side of the ball, probably 8 to 10 to 12 different guys. Maybe they went pretty defense heavy this time around. It might be a little more than that. When they say no whiff in the deck, that means that they feel like everybody's going to be able to contribute, which is pretty significant, Kelly. That's a pretty good hit rate if that turns out to be true. Now, the reality is, some guys will be better than others, but, it's going to be real interesting to see how this staff is able to develop these guys because I think that's a good sign, what I heard yesterday on the defensive side of things anyway.
It seemed like they're really good at developing talent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But as you know this, and as I know this, being a high school coach and at any level, you always hear guys say, "Well, he's a can't miss guy." Well, when you say that's like the kiss of death to somebody,
right?
Because if you say he's a can't miss guy, then I'm going to show you flaws in there. And some guys make it, some guys don't. You know that. I mean, they might be all world where they're coming from, but they just don't fit the system. I use Jim Plunkett. I mean, Jim Plunkett with the New England Patriots, and he was terrible. And then he goes to Al Davis, and hey, honor and everything out there, honor and respect for the Oakland Raiders. And then he goes and he wins a Super Bowl. I mean, it's timing, and some guys can, some guys can't. And it's funny to see. It's interesting to see how all that plays out.
Well, I'll know this staff has really got it. If they really unlock Joe Milton and they really get him playing ball,
correct,
that will be, I mean, that will really prove it to me. And look, I'm not down on Joe Milton, but people say, well, I'm negative. I'm just a reality person when it comes to this stuff. And I believe in your track record. And until you show me a different track record, I mean, it's what we have. But
it's a little like Jonathan Crompton.
That's exactly. Well, George, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
I'm just. I was sitting there, and I'm like you though. The Joe, he played really good in the Orange Bowl. He played lights out. He threw the ball well, but I just can't get that first game out of the back of my mind when he played against. I think it was Pittsburgh. Was it Pittsburgh? University of Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
And he was over like Josh Heupel could not draw plays up any better to get guys open, and he was throwing scud missiles and. That's in there. Now, obviously coaching has a lot to do with it, but a kid has to handle his emotions. There's a lot that goes into it. He's playing at a big-time program. He's got a lot of expectations on him. And, I've talked with Danny Evans, the guy that comes on here talking about baseball, about expectations. When you get paid a lot of money and those expectations get bolstered up, man, there's a lot of pressure on you. And if you fold to that pressure, it's not very hard to do that.
Well, I was at the Trey Turner standing ovation game a couple weeks ago in Philly.
Oh, wow. I saw
when they stood up and cheered.
Awesome.
I was one of the people that stood up and cheered. People around us like, what are you doing? But look, I mean, for one thing, I know how mental the whole deal is. And for another thing, that's a guy that doesn't want to dog it. He's not one of these guys that, lollygags around and disrespects the game. And, he plays hard. Mm-hmm. And so we were sitting in the player section because a player got us some tickets, and those folks were really touched to see that entire fan base stand up and cheer for a guy who to that point was way in the tank on the season, like 100 points below where they thought he was going to hit, hadn't hit the ball out of the park, wasn't fielding very well. Just wasn't doing a whole lot well on the season. And I don't think people appreciate how mental these things become. And major college football, there's no question that if you go out there and you're Joe Milton and you lose your gig at Michigan and you come at Tennessee, you lose your gig at Tennessee, that's got to be tough to get up from. So he's got to play this year. If he has a big season, I'll know Josh Heupel is I already know Josh Heupel's great at what he does, but if they can unlock Joe Milton for a full year, come on now, that'll prove it to me.
I agree.
Okay, nothing more out of you, Kelly?
No, I'm good. I got some questions. Are we going to a break or what?
No. If you've got more, go. You look like
Well, I was
Kelly's
just going to ask.
Kelly's saying to himself right now, when does Watson Brown, can we reintroduce him? Tony's boring me. When can we make that happen? But go ahead, Cal.
No, I was gonna ask. I didn't, I'm just kind of stepping in for Watson. I know you and him are boys. I mean, good gracious. I'm trying to fill his shoes. I don't know if I can.
You're my love now.
Oh Lord, here we go. Are you gonna offer me a job too? I mean, you're offering Billy a job. Can you offer me a job as well? I'll come.
I didn't offer Billy a job. I just simply said that I admire Billy's talent. I would hate to drag Billy into the poorhouse.
Billy, I think, is desperate for you to do that because Kelly has accused him of turning it into a gym shoe operation.
George, I've got a question for Tony later.
Do you really?
Yeah. After
go right ahead. Butt in on Kelly.
Butt in?
Yeah. What the hell?
Okay, here we go. Tony, I got a chance to listen today, and I heard you guys talking about the expectations, right? And I think somebody mentioned 2016 was a big year with a lot of expectations for Tennessee. This season, how do you gauge the excitement level after a season like last year where that just sort of blew the top off, not just Knoxville, but the country? So how do you gauge the excitement level right now with Tennessee's fan base?
For one thing, Billy, it's higher than I can remember. A caller asked me that today, and I had to stop and think. First of all, and George will attest to this, the older you get, the more these years run together. That's one.
Tell me about it.
The second thing is, though, it's been so long since Tennessee's had any kind of expectation that I wouldn't have had to answer that. So one of my cohorts said 2016, and I kind of nodded, and I guess that made sense. To me, it would have to be early 2000s. Look, people want to really, a lot of people around here want to really believe that the program is back. And I think this program's semi-back, and I think it's heading in the right direction. The problem is in the Southeastern Conference is you're not dealing with people that are going to wait on you to get your deal up to speed. Like last year, they lost a guy that won the Blitnikoff Award, a guy that would have won the Blitnikoff Award if he didn't get hurt in Tillman. They lost a guy that would have won the Heisman Trophy, the first ever in school history. And by the way, they won the first Blitnikoff Award, and a guy off their offense who's going to start for the Chicago Bears day one.
Mm-hmm.
And they're replacing them with some pretty able and capable players on offense, but this team's got to outscore people. And, the offensive line remains an issue, but hey, people are rightfully excited because Billy, they got their program back, man. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. They've got their program back, and you know what? Good for them, because this is a great fan base that deserves that. It really is. It's a great fan base.
71,000 season tickets sold.
Yeah.
Whew. Kelly, give him one more.
Well, this is my last
you've ever asked.
Well, I don't know about that, but this is my last one. I know the weakness. You thinking the weakness is offensive line, maybe? I mean,
yes.
That's where it starts up front. What do you think is the strength of this team?
As crazy as it sounds, I think there are a couple of them. I think the wide receivers are excellent.
Okay.
And I think the linebacking core is going to be very good. So
Sweet.
If they could figure out a way to generate a pass rush, or they might just turn some people loose, but they've got a really decent, actually a really deep linebacking core with some capable bodies there and some guys that can make some plays for the first time in a long time. Jeremy Banks going off, and the Mitchell kid who transferred him from Texas, who left here in the portal, really did some favors for the program because they're good at that position. And then the wide receivers, Kelly, when you see a couple of these guys, you're going to be like, what? Did they put these guys together in factories? When you see a couple of these dudes, you're going to be like, wow. So if the offensive line can get time and Milton can make the right decisions at the line of scrimmage, this team's going to score a lot of points.
Okay, let's see the shirt in its entirety.
All right.
Okay.
It's the vet, right?
I know
Stadium,
exactly what it is.
Pride, pretzels, prison.
They would send people
71 to 2003. And George, there was a prison. A buddy of mine ran onto the field.
Right.
And there was a judge under the stadium.
Yes.
And you would go before the judge, and a buddy of mine did that. He had a little too much to drink.
700 section, I'm told, could get a little fierce.
700 section. When I was a kid, the Phillies and Pirates would play every year because they were in the same division. And the people would come over from Pittsburgh. And I have literally, I close my eyes and see this, the fights in the stands of people rolling down the stairs, fighting each other. The Pittsburgh fans and the Phillies fans up there in the cheap seats. You could sit up there for 99 cents a game in the late 70s, early 80s. $1 a game.
Tony, that was the worst field ever. I played there a couple of times, and it was terrible.
They bought
Sorry.
the
I mean, I
turf
know.
in Uganda.
I don't know, but it was bad.
Horrendous, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I think Wendell Tyler from LSU blew out both knees on the same play on that field, which doesn't surprise me. But I remember Reggie White telling me one time when he came back here, he was like, man, I had no idea how bad that field was till I went to Green Bay and played on grass.
And George,
Well,
look out,
you know?
Look out for the Fighting Phils right now. They're hanging around,
Hey.
creeping in there, staying alive.
They've got my attention, believe me.
The Phillies and the Dodgers are the only two teams in the National League that could take the Braves in a series. Otherwise, you guys are home free.
I think you're right.
You don't want to see the Phils, though, George.
Don't want to see the Phils, and sure as hell don't want to see the Dodgers.
Mm-mm.
Tell them how they can hear your show.
tclub.team. Tell Frenchie Francoeur I love him. I'm a fan, man.
Are you hiring Billy?
Billy, you got my digits, brother. Reach out.
I got him. Phone call away.
See you guys.
Be real careful with that. See you, Tony.
Thank you, guys.
We're just having fun here. Or are we? Kelly, what do you think? What's your recommendation to Tony?
About Billy?
Yes.
Buyer beware.
We'll go to the break and we'll be back.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to Donnelly Timmons.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction.
If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Okay, you see that picture there of Joe Milton, and we're going to take a few minutes and talk about him and pick the brain of a real quarterback and not just some goofball yapping sports like me. Kelly, there was a point, and you brought up the Pittsburgh game, and it was so apparent. God, he had people wide open, and he wasn't even in the ballpark of hitting any of those people. I had seen it at Michigan. I thought what he would do is grab the sawdust out of the ball and throw it 140 miles an hour on the radar gun. How do you think, first of all, their coaching staff has gone about remaking him?
I think you have to start with his fundamentals, George. I think that obviously Josh Heupel does a really good job. He brought Hendon Hooker in, and Hendon Hooker was, up until he got hurt last year. I mean, he might have been in the running for the Heisman Trophy. He's playing so well. He was really good. So obviously the coaching helped him. But, just like Tony said, he went to Michigan. He didn't make it at Michigan. He came to Tennessee. He didn't make it there to begin with. I will say this about him. It says a lot about his character. He became best friends with Hendon Hooker, and I'm sure they're still best friends now. I'm sure they talk every day. That's kind of says something about him. It says something about like what happened to Jalen Hurts when he was at Alabama, when he got kind of kicked to the side and Tua Tagovailoa came in, and he was the guy. Joe Milton could have transferred somewhere else. He didn't. He decided to stick it out. I think it paid off for him last year. I don't know if you can get anything from the Vanderbilt game. Vanderbilt was not ready to play that game. He looked really good. Looked good in the Orange Bowl. I think he's one of those guys. He's kind of like an Anthony Richardson. We've talked about him earlier in the show, George. He's got a lot of ability, got a lot of talent. He can run the football. He's big. He can throw it through a wall. He's obviously got to develop some touch. He's not very good with touch balls. He did better in that Orange Bowl game with hitting some deep shots, but the coaches have got to work on his footwork, his feet. That's where everything starts, George, with a quarterback, your feet. I can remember I tell people this all the time. I had practice. I've told my son this. I had practice at 8 at middle, and my coach Alex Robbins was very organized, very. He liked to work you, and we got over there at 5:30 in the morning. We had meetings before the day. Then at 6:30, I was on the field, George, and we didn't start practice till 8. And all I did was drop. That's all I did. We would go through some drills, and I would drop. But it got me to where I was really accurate with the football. I could always throw the football, but I never had anything like that in high school. And when you get good at throwing the ball, when you get really accurate, that means your feet are really good. And I just think he's got to work on that. He's got to work on his touch balls. I can remember being at Indianapolis when I was with Jim Harbaugh, and there was this drill that we warmed up with. We would take 3 steps, and the receivers would just take off and they would run. It wasn't a full sprint, but it was a run. And you had to throw the ball up in the air and you had to hit them. Well, when I first started that, I could not do it. Couldn't do it. And then Jim kind of took me to the side and he was like, Al Davis showed me this. He was like, don't look at the football, but look at the receiver. He's like, just throw it up in the air, look at the receiver, not the football. And man, what helped? It helped me so much. And that's what I've taught my son. That's what I've taught all the kids that I've tried to coach. But he's got to develop some touch, George. But I'm like, Tony, if they get him to playing like he played in that Orange Bowl for a whole year, that's remarkable because he's a talented guy. He can throw it through a wall. I don't know about his intangibles, about his leadership, about how he commands himself in the huddle. I don't know anything about those things. Seems like he's pretty
part of the leadership. The fact that when it wasn't all great for him, he didn't just hold.
Absolutely. I think people respect that. I think they've seen what people kind of long for that. They kind of rally around a guy like that who, hey, you were coming in here with all this from Michigan. You were going to be the starter. And you know what? You got humbled a little bit. And guys really, they flock to that, George. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it will help him because those guys say, hey, we've been in the struggle. You've been in the struggle. Now let's do it together.
He needs to run the football more. I don't think he really likes running the football. You mentioned his running ability, Kelly. We know how far he can throw the football. Yeah. The guy, he's 6'5", 240. I think the next step for him is obviously accuracy and touch, but if he could add a running element, a physicality where he could truck a guy because he's huge. I mean, I didn't see that really at all last year when he got an opportunity. So if he can run the football a little bit better, I think that really helps Tennessee this year.
I'm with you. I think and you can do that in college. That's kind of where the game is in college. These big quarterbacks, they're able to run that zone read where they can hand it off or they can do it. They've got the RPO stuff. But you're right. Hey, when the play breaks down, you got to be willing to do something with the ball. You got to throw it away. Or I always threw it away because I couldn't run. We know that. But if he can make something with his legs, that would certainly help their offense. I'm like Tony, though. I'm not sure about their offensive line, George. I'm really not. They've got the Cooper Mays kid. They lost two guys. One of them was a free agent, and then the kid that went to Chicago, who's going to be a starter for those guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how Glenn Ellerby, a former MTSU alumni guy, who's the O-line coach, he's going to have to mix and mingle. They got a guy from Miami that transferred in there that was a left tackle. They put him at right tackle. So it's going to be interesting to see because we both know that it starts up front on both sides of the ball. And if you're not very good up front, don't matter how good Joe Milton's playing, he's not going to have much time. He's probably going to get injured. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
Last thing, does Heupel have to go to Milton and say, listen, you've got to forget about Nico. I'm not dumping you if the first half of the Virginia game isn't very good? What does a coach do there when the guy behind him everybody's yapping about?
I think that's a good point, George. I think that would certainly seems like Joe Milton has got a little bit of mental toughness about him with what all he's been through now. So I don't know if that's going to bother him or not. Subconsciously, it does bother you because I can remember when I was in Cleveland and we had the coach there that kind of he knew that both myself and Tim could play, Tim Couch. So he would kind of like, if I was playing good, then it was good. But if I started playing bad, I always had that in the back of my mind. We're saying, well, he's going to jerk me for Tim. So whether you think that or not, it's subconsciously back there. And I think that would be a great thing for Josh Heupel to do. I don't know. But I think that Joe Milton would have to play himself out of it to get the Nico kid to come in there. I really do.
Okay. We're late to the start of the 3 o'clock hour. After the break, we'll have stat of the day. And then I'll tell you a little bit about what last night was like for me at Truist Park, because it's not going to be probably what you think. It will surprise you, and it'll be very football-oriented. So stay tuned. Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication. And we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports, and then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general: baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised, and of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Top of the hour on a Tuesday. It's time for Stat of the Day, brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards in Shelbyville, Tennessee. You can give them a call at 204 East Depot Street. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call at 931-492-4304. All right, here we go. Let's see what Butch has cooked up for us today. We are 11 days away from week 0 of college football. What are the 4 teams to compete in the first college football playoff in 2014?
Okay, hold on here, because I think I know. Kelly, 2 of them were Florida State, Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
Well, Alabama was in there for sure.
Yeah.
That's 3 of the 4 right there.
Okay, hold on, because the hard part is, who did Alabama play?
I do not remember that, George.
Hold on, because I'm not willing to give it up that easy. It may have been Ohio State.
That's what I'm going to say. Ohio State.
And Ohio State won the game after getting down 21-7. Let's go with those 4.
Those 4 are correct. Alabama,
Correct.
Oregon, Florida State, and Ohio State.
There you go, George. Nice.
Right there.
Yeah.
Nice.
Made it look easy.
That dog will hunt.
That's a tougher question. That's a tougher question. A lot of people realize, though.
Oregon's quarterback.
I mean, Alabama. I think anybody could have guessed that, but
Marcus Mariota.
Marcus Mariota.
And Ohio State. Did they not beat Alabama?
They sure did.
They did.
Zeke Elliott, long run.
Down 21-7, rallied back to get the win.
Sure did.
Huge statement. I mean, for first playoff, Ohio State had a good team, but I don't think anybody expected them to beat Alabama.
They won it that year, did they not? Yeah, they won it that year.
They did.
Yeah, it was with the big kid at quarterback.
Who was that? Cardale Johnson?
Cardale Jones.
Cardale Jones. Yeah.
Jones. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, he was their third string to start the season, I think.
He was, yes. And then I think he went to, didn't he go to Buffalo? I never made it.
Yeah.
They had beaten Wisconsin 59-0. If memory serves me correctly, in the Big Ten title game, which got everybody's attention.
I think we could have another crazy year like that one this year. You know, I mean, that was one of those years where you didn't know whatever was going to happen week to week.
It could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun year.
Okay, Kelly. So I've reserved a little time for things that I saw last night at Truist Park, and everybody's going to sit there and say, "Oh Lord, here he goes."
Well, here we go.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
First of all, I've been to a lot of night games in Major League Baseball. I've been to a lot of stadiums. I think all of you know how much I love baseball. That is the hottest, most uncomfortable, sticky night game I have ever been to. Couldn't stop sweating.
You know, I checked my phone to see. Let me see what the weather is down there in Atlanta for George tonight. 90 with I think it felt like almost 100, and it was a night game, so it didn't really cool off.
It didn't cool off a lick, and I don't know if they were giving away fans or not. But from the press box, I looked out at one point, and 80% of the crowd was fanning themselves. There was no wind. Anyway.
But George was up in the box.
That's what I was about to say.
Not the whole night.
Okay, but
not the whole night. In fact,
you still got to go up there.
Yeah, go ahead and show the seats. That's in the press box. Go ahead and show the seats. No, that's definitely not it. First base side.
Okay, that's the one picture I got 4 pictures.
Kelly, are we going to put up with this?
I don't have to put up with anything. You're the director.
Okay, so I knew going in that we were going up into the TV booth before the game ever started. Probably about an hour ahead of time. Here's what shocked me. Okay, I knew Jeff is a huge football fan, and I knew, if nothing else, he would pepper David Cutcliffe with college football questions. It's the guy in the middle that absolutely turned it into a press conference.
Smoltzy.
John Smoltz may well be the best color analyst in all of baseball.
He's good.
Good.
Yeah.
But last night, and he knew Cutcliffe was coming, and he was prepared. He turned it into a press conference. And I'm sitting there listening to this going, holy cow. I had no idea how analytical he would be about football. The conversation between him and David Cutcliffe was unbelievable. I never said a word. How about that?
That's shocking.
Hall of Famer, maybe as good a big game pitcher as has been in my lifetime. And he asked 40 million football questions, and at one point appeared to ask Cutcliffe to take the Michigan State job. So, on to what I saw last night in the whole stuff. Braves, Yankees. It's easy to say the Braves have got an everyday lineup that's really good. Duh. Helen Keller can see it. Theirs is going to come down to pitching. And the guy that was out there last night is the one I'm here to tell you I have no concerns about. Max Fried is a stud. He'll be there when it matters. Danny Evans, who grew up, well, Max Fried, who grew up around Danny Evans, Danny's his biggest fan. We'll probably talk about him on Thursday. Spencer Strider, probably going to be fine. The concern becomes Charlie Morton, 39 years old, curveball specialist. When his curveball is on, it's as good as any of them. But this year he's been inconsistent. And when they get to October, under the are they going to win it all, tell me what Charlie Morton is, and then I'll tell you whether they're going to win it all. If he's lights out, they probably are. They are that good in their everyday 8. But there's some shaky pitching stuff that maybe we got to get around a little bit. Those were our seats last night. Kelly, those are pretty damn good.
A lot of people there too, man. A lot of folks.
On to the Yankees for a second. And by the way, for a team that's not very good, man, do their fans travel. I'm guessing here that they had a third of the crowd last night at Truist Park, which means that before the season ever started, they bought up what they could. This has been a big, disappointing year for the Yankees. And it appears to me to have come down to if Aaron Judge goes long ball, they can be decent. When he doesn't, they're not very good. They don't hit. And if you really want some commentary on the Yankees, tune into what Mark DeRosa put out there this morning on MLB Network. He is dead on right. Giancarlo Stanton, he's a shadow of the guy that hit 60 in Florida. First inning last night, he's got a chance to absolutely bury Max Fried. 3-0 pitch, he takes a fastball right down the middle. Now, one of two things happened. Either he decided not to swing or he wasn't given the green light. And given how bad their offense is, if he wasn't given the green light, I would can Aaron Boone. By the way, they're going to at the end of the year.
Yeah, I asked you that. Last week, I think. Just seems like I don't know. They can't hit. That's crazy. Like you said, if they don't have Aaron Judge hitting, I mean, they have nothing going for them right now. It's kind of amazing. They're in the best division in baseball. Everybody's got a winning record, but they're getting close. But they're, just like Danny said, they're probably going to win 85 games, but they're not going to sniff it.
Now, here's where I'll get some bias. If you have not been to a baseball game at Truist Park, it's unbelievable. I was not a big fan of Turner Field. It was okay. But the truth of it is Turner Field was built for the 1996 Olympics. Mm-hmm. And they retrofitted it to be a baseball stadium. I thought it was very plain, not a whole lot to it. This place is really good. It's as good as it gets.
So, George, what was the let's go back to John Smoltz. What was the best question or the most intriguing question that he asked David Cutcliffe about football?
He wanted to get into the mindset with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning and stuff they thought about and the fact that Peyton was so good without having a rocket arm. And, Cutcliffe got into a lot of great footwork kind of stuff, get the ball out in that 2.5 seconds. I mean, they turned it into a coaching clinic.
Yeah, well, I've told you that. That's what Peyton was really good about being prepared. He was always prepared. I can remember we played the Miami Dolphins on the very first opening day. It was down in Miami one time, and talking to some of the coaches afterwards. Tom Moore came to us the next week after we had beat those guys, and they were all in an uproar because at the beginning of the game they wanted to bring a corner crash, which is a corner blitz. So if you get on which one hash, they brought the corner to the short side of the field, and those coaches were in there arguing about it because half of them wanted to do it, half of them didn't, and they said, we can get him, and the other half said, no, he'll figure it out. And then they tried it, they did it, and Peyton picked them apart on that one too. So he was just it's funny to see, because I didn't want to ask Coach Cutcliffe when he came to that night that you talked to him. I didn't want to ask him to compare those guys because they're brothers, and he coached both of them, but it just seems like watching those guys. Peyton is much more. He was much more of. He was preparation. He didn't have the athleticism. I think Eli's pretty athletic, and Peyton could run a little bit. People didn't think about it, but he could do that a little bit. He looked really bad when he did it, but Eli just doesn't. Like, Eli went to the right place for him. He went to New York. I don't think Peyton could have handled New York. I really don't. And Eli just let stuff fall off his shoulders. So that was kind of cool, just talking about that and learning about, the differences between them. It doesn't matter to me who's, they both won 2 Super Bowls. They're both probably going to the Hall of Fame. Peyton's already there and Eli may go. So I didn't care about that. But that's the kind of things that are intriguing. And I figured he would ask a question that way.
Here's one other thing that came up last night. Todd Helton was a quarterback at Tennessee when Peyton was. Therefore, Cutcliffe had dealt with Todd Helton, and Cutcliffe is a huge baseball fan. He told me that you could shut your eyes and you could tell when it was Todd Helton in the batting cage. He said, coming off the bat, it sounded different with Todd Helton than anybody else up there.
It's all about the sound. That's what I asked Danny the other day. It's about pitchers hitting the glove, and it's about batters. They say Bryce Harper's got a different sound, like Miguel Cabrera's got a different sound when they hit the baseball. And I was able to play. I played in Neyland Stadium in the state semifinals against Todd Helton when he was at Knox Powell. And his running back became my running back at middle, Kippy Bayless. So I got to everybody was saying, hey, they're ranked in the nation and they're going to beat us. And them old country boys from Lincoln County went up there and stuck it to the old Knox Powell boys.
Last thing about the Yankees, the kid at shortstop, Anthony Volpe, is a keeper.
Really good player.
Oh, he's going to be terrific.
And he's young.
Yeah.
And George, I think he was once... I know people call me a Vandy homer, but I think he was once a Vandy commit. Or he might have either been a Vandy commit or was really close with Jack Leiter because he's from up there in the Northeast. So I think he was close to maybe coming to Vandy. But
Matt Olson and his 44 homers was a Vandy commit.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. 44 homers. Man, he is killing it. We'll go to the break. Sounds play-by-play voice Jeff Him will join us. Stick around. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication, and we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700, send us a message at celestemiddleton.com, or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
I can't wait to ask Jeff Him. He's in the right-hand portion of the screen. This question. First of all, Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing well, George. How are you?
Good, good. So you and I talked earlier. You know, I had a blast last night listening most of the time to football talk. There was some baseball in there. Give me somebody you deal with, and I think I know where you're going to go, who you love talking baseball with, who just every time you're with him teaches you something that you'd never thought about.
Oh, gosh. There's so many people that I get to come in contact with in this job that I could answer with. I mean, I think right now with where my mind is and the everyday nature of our schedule, I mean, Rick Sweet would be number one, the Sounds manager. He always wants to talk ball. He will share with me something from the previous night's game. You know, and you and I are kind of the same way. It's like, hey, by the way, you know, that last night you had, you know, 2 on, 1 out. So this happened. Like, what did you think there? And Rick is confident in his own skin to know that I'm not second guessing him. I just like to know. I like to learn. I like to think, oh yeah, I hadn't thought of that factor. There's always more to it going on in the dugout than we like to see, think about from our chair up in the booth or when we're watching a game at home on the couch. And there's especially at AAA. I mean, bullpen usage is always interesting at AAA because of who they might not even have available because of potential call-ups, or this guy might not be able to pitch until the next day or whatever it is. So just the strategy of it all. I mean, Rick knows I'm trying to kind of play along with them from upstairs as a game is unfolding. And sometimes I've got a pretty good handle on why they're doing what they're doing. And other times, because of things that are happening behind the scenes that I'm not privy to, there's a lot that I may not know that's going on. And it's always fun to just kind of piece it together the next day, or to ask him, hey, you know, what do you think of that other team's center fielder? Did you like him as much as, you know, as well as he played that series or whatever it is? And that never gets old. The access that you get with this job to be able to just go up to a player or a coach or a manager and ask them a question, whether it's going to make the air or not, whether it's off the record or on, whether it's just out of curiosity. That's one of the fun parts of the job. The hours before the game, when you're prepping and when you're researching and when you're talking with a manager or a player, that's just as much fun as then calling the game and watching it all unfold, because so much of what might happen in a given game is dictated by what you might find out about a situation or a player or something like that before the game. So I would answer right away with Rick. Other broadcasters, though, and I'm sure you know that world too, George, that's always fun. You know, I see the Sounds play every day. We're playing Charlotte tonight. I have not seen the Charlotte Knights play since we last saw them in late May, early June. So the best handle I'm going to get quickly is from Matt Sweared, their great longtime broadcaster. I can get kind of the thumbnails version of them. And that's as important going into a game. You know, I'm going to sort of 80-20 talk Sounds opponent. That's kind of the breakdown, because I think people tune into a Sounds game to hear about the Sounds, but you've got to at least have a working knowledge of the other team. And the broadcaster conversations are always fun too, including things that can't make the air. as much as things that can, and that's good stuff too.
Actually, that's the 80-20 rule. About
Yeah.
80% of it you can't air.
Right.
So when you
Right.
said Charlotte, it really made me feel old, because when I was young and thin and doing minor league baseball, Charlotte had a shortstop by the name of Cal Ripken Jr. Turned out pretty decent.
Yep. I saw a photo of Cal in Charlotte up in the press box club lounge area that they've got their beautiful area with all kind of old photos, and several Charlotte Orioles went on to be okay. Eddie Murray had a decent career for himself too. Yeah, they were Double-A back in the day for Baltimore, and that's when Cal was coming up. You nailed that.
Do you find, because the theory is that the catcher, and Rick Sweet was a catcher with the San Diego Padres for years and caught people like Randy Jones and Gaylord Perry and probably Raleigh Fingers. Is the catcher, because he's in on every play, the most interesting person to talk to?
Interesting. Yeah, you could argue that for sure. I definitely think it's why those guys end up getting managerial opportunities later on, because they just have to have their hand on so much with the team. There's so much that they have to do for others before they can worry about, say, their offensive game in preparation for the game. They're always interesting to talk to. They always have a great perspective. They are always noticing the littlest things that later on could have an impact on the game. So that's I hadn't thought about. I mean, I was thinking of Rick just being the Sounds manager and in his role talking baseball, but then I'm realizing, as you say that now, a lot of why our conversations are so fun is because that catcher's mentality in him, even though he's long past his playing days, he's noticing things in a game and is probably still watching games through the catcher's lens that he was innately developed as his career went along. I mean, catchers, they've got to know about they're not middle infielders, but they've got to know what it's like to be a middle infielder and communicate with middle infielders for stolen bases. They obviously have to manage pitchers and pitching staffs. They've got to know hitting for their own game, but then they're also trying to get in the mind of the hitter that they're trying to get out. So catchers are always fascinating to talk to. They notice the smallest details that could have an impact on the game. And I do think that's why many of them go on to be very good managers, or if not managers, certainly bench coaches, base coaches, whatever the case may be, just because of everything that they've got to have a handle on going into a ball game or a series.
Jeff, this happened to me one day. We had a coach. Now, remember, this has been right at 38, 40 years ago, who was an absolute sign stealing expert. And he gave me a tutorial one day that I was like, whoa, I had no idea. You ever had that kind of conversation?
Yeah, I mean, that is the stuff that, like, if you and I just go sit out in the stands and watch a game, we're chatting, we're eating, we're watching the game, but we're not locked in the way these guys are during a game. That's why I was saying earlier, there's always so much more going on in the dugout and behind the scenes that they have to think about that we're just not wired to think about, or in the way we're watching the game, we're not trying to think about. And signs are a great example of that. Just talking to our coaches. So right now, if you watch a major league game, you know this, George, as much big league ball as you watch. They've got the PitchCom system. The catcher's wearing a little touchpad near one of his knee pads, inputs the signs. The pitcher's wearing the device in his cap where he can hear, okay, slider up and away, fastball outside, whatever the pitch that's being input. That's how the catcher and pitcher are communicating. We can thank the Astros for that, although I'm sure they weren't the only team trying to be nefarious with it in years past. But we know what we know about Houston. So the catcher rarely is now giving actual signs with fingers in between his legs like they long used to. Well, at the major league level, the infielders are also wearing the PitchCom device so that they can know what pitch is coming. So the shortstop, if he thinks the batter is going to be out in front, he can get a head start leaning toward the hole because he thinks the right-handed batter is going to pull the ball or what have you. Well, at the AAA level where we're at, the pitcher and catcher are using PitchCom. The infielders, because the PitchComs are very expensive and it's just not as widespread yet at AAA as it is at the big league level, the infielders for the Sounds are not wearing the device to hear what pitch is about to be thrown by their pitcher, but they want to know what it is. So in a span of a couple of seconds, the catcher and pitcher get on the same page. Somebody in the Sounds dugout who knows what pitch is about to be thrown is quickly relaying with some sort, you talk about not picking up these, some sort of signage that they've got figured out that they feel the other team won't be able to pick up, that they can relay out to the Sounds infielders who can quickly peek into the dugout, figure out, okay, a cutter in is about to be thrown, and then they're that much readier defensively. All that is happening every single pitch of every single game. And that's just the fun part. One of the fun things to me that like fans just, they're not even, it's not their fault, but they're not thinking about that as they're watching a game. But there is, and then there's a version of that happening for outfielders and where they position themselves. And the outfielder might, when the count goes from 1-2 to 2-2, the outfielder might make the slightest adjustment of where he's positioned in the outfield. Could turn out to make all the difference in a catch versus a double in the gap. I love that stuff. And even a lot of that is going to be over my head. But you talk about talking ball or getting to ask a manager a question or get the access that this job allows. The game within the game and then the game within the game within the game, like that stuff I love. Yeah. And I know there are versions of that in all the other sports. But something about baseball and that kind of stuff feels different. I don't know if it's because you got 9 defenders versus 5-on-5 in basketball. I don't know what it is, but the game within the game in baseball is fascinating to me because you just never know when that littlest thing is going to have the biggest payoff toward a victory. You see a box score and you think, 8-0. Well, that home run won the game. Well, there's 5 or 6 other little things that happened within that 9-inning game that led to that 8-0 win that the team in the clubhouse after the game is thinking about, that the box score is just not going to show you. That's baseball to me.
Okay, Kelly, I'm going to teach you a couple of things here. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Here's
sure,
how
George.
The system was. The trash can banging. That was
really
that was part of how they got caught. Was they were banging on a trash can.
Yeah. Okay.
Here's one other little note for you. Last night, really good young announcer, Dave Fleming with the Giants, played bat boy.
I saw that.
Let me take that back. Ball boy for like the first 4 innings and then went on the air and talked about it's not as easy as all of you think. And he went through some stuff. Now, I was going through a thunderstorm near Chattanooga, and so I'd have listened to anything. But it was really good stuff. Say hello to Jeff Him.
Jeff, what's up? Everybody steals signals. I can remember when we were in Minnesota, this was the coolest thing. When I was playing for the Minnesota Vikings, we stole a sign from the Chicago Bears, and we knew they were blitzing off the weak side. We picked up the blitz, gave it to Adrian Peterson the other way, and he went for 6.
Wow.
So everybody does that. I remember when I took our kids up, which I probably shouldn't tell this, but we went up to up to Canton and played in that deal they got up there, the baseball deal where you go every summer. They have teams every summer. I forget what it was called, but you know what I'm talking about, Jeff. And we went up there and we got the signs for the other team, and then he literally. Our third base coach went over there, and it was I would either say their first name or their last name, tell them if their first name was a fastball, if it was their last name, it was a curveball. And then the coach over there, he was from Miami or Puerto Rico or somewhere, and he was going to kick. He was trying to start our fight with a third base coach. He's like, you need to stop all that, hide your signs. I mean, don't put them out there for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Right. That's where the banging of the trash can that George is talking about, like that's abusing the access that teams had. Now, if there are some coaches around the game who are really good at what you talked about, Kelly, just they're not there it is again. Is Altuve about to bat, George? Is that what we got? Okay. But there are some coaches around the game who are just really good at picking up whether it's a sign, but also sometimes pitchers are tipping their pitches. They wiggle their glove differently, not even realizing it when they're about to throw a fastball or a curveball. Some coaches can pick that stuff up, and that's not to me, that's not cheating. That's just, hey, I noticed something different. It's like if you were about to hand the ball off versus drop back to pass, and I noticed something different that you do with your hands or your shoulders or whatever, that's fair game, is it not?
Fair game. That's what I was going to say. That's just knowing your opponent and getting an edge. You sit there and you watch film, and you can tell sometimes when an offensive lineman, when he's going to pass set, if he's got his hands just barely stuck in the ground, or if he's got his weight shifted on his hand to know that it's a running play. So anything you can do to get an advantage, So here's my one and only question to you, and I don't know how this is going to be, but what did you think about the Kevin Brown fiasco with the Orioles, where he got suspended for a couple of games from something that I still don't understand what he said that was wrong?
I'm with you. I don't know a single person. I certainly don't know a single broadcaster who thought, yeah, what he did is suspendable. I mean, first of all, where he got that from was the team's game notes. The PR staff of the Orioles compiled that stat, and really it shows how good the Orioles have gotten. I thought it was a very harmless stat. It was a good stat, but it was a non-controversial stat. I'm with you. I don't know Kevin. I don't need to know Kevin to know that there was nothing there other than a lot of smoke with no fire. I mean, that was very, very odd. And unfortunately, then the story the next 4 days took away from what the story should be. The Orioles are really good. Also, part of the reason that they're good is because for several years they knew they weren't going to be good, and they were stockpiling prospects and draft picks. So I didn't understand it. And there's far more than just the play-by-play guy. I mean, you got a truck who's building that graphic. This was not a rant that he decided to go on in the fifth inning of a blowout game because he was tired and frustrated and let the situation get the best of him. This was a pre-planned, pre-taped open based off of a stat provided by the team's PR staff. I don't get it. Kevin's back now, I believe, right? Or about to be back. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Very, very strange.
Well, does that do anything to you as an announcer, Jeff, with like thinking about what you got to say? That doesn't have any effect on you, does it?
Not a direct effect. No, I mean, I'm not, but but George knows this, having been, and well, you've done analyst. It's the same way as an analyst. Like you've got that filter in your brain as you're delivering something, where you kind of, most people have that feel like, all right, I might have crossed the line on that one, or what I'm saying right now is not controversial. Like that, there was nothing that Kevin was doing there that would have been controversial, I don't think. And that didn't really have any effect on me, because in a direct way, like because I think 99 out of 100 people are going to be like, yeah, that didn't seem like that big of a deal. And it just shows how good the Orioles are, which I think was all he was trying to accomplish there.
George is probably like the TSSAA when they send out an email to all of us that are doing the games and they say, do not ridicule the referees. Well, they're talking directly to me. I understand that because I do that.
Holding 58 offense.
Yeah.
Still first down.
Right.
Yeah. Jeff, thank you for doing this. I know you had no idea where I was going today, because 2 minutes before we came on, I had no idea where we were going.
That's what makes it fun, man. We live in the world of unpredictability, and I'm all for it.
Glad to have you home. Have a good homestand.
All right, guys. See ya.
See you, Jeff.
Him, the major league announcer on the minor league level, and there are several out there in that cat. It's the hardest broadcast job to break into, because the people up on that other level, they don't give them up.
No, they don't give them up, and they become old doing it.
Yeah. Please, I know. Okay. Plaster bet of the day. I've got one that will have a graphic. I have a second one that will not. Stay tuned.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995. As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at bairdifference.com.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Final segment on a Tuesday from the beautiful Fordyce Center in Bellevue. It's time for Plaster's Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call at 615-242-9000 or log on to their website. That's bartdurham.com. All right, let's check out what happened last night. And I think we've already talked about the Braves W.
Oh, yeah.
So 16-8, 8 games above 500 now, Kelly.
He's doing it, man. He's as he says it, he's making people some money.
We're going to do it again tonight, Kelly. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Here's the one that's on paper. Texas at home, scoring a bunch of runs again. The Angels, no Mike Trout. They're pitching around Ohtani. Take the Rangers at home. They're going to score a boatload of runs, and their pitching's just good enough to make it work. Here's the second one. Am I about to ignore the Atlanta Braves? Hell no. I love the possibility of just burying the Yankees. Bryce Elder, not been very good recently. Needs to stay away from Aaron Judge. That's the key now to playing the Yankees. Don't let Aaron Judge beat you. If Mike Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton does, so be it. Take the Braves. They're going to win.
Wait, did you say Mike Stanton?
Well, that's
he did.
That was his name before he went Giancarlo.
I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. He was Mike Stanton.
Gosh. Wow.
Anyway, to hell with them. Go with the Braves.
Can the Braves bury the Yankees?
Have you talked to Terry McCormick about it?
No, I have not.
You have not?
No.
You're not going to rub it in his face?
Probably not.
It's hard to
until the
rub it
end.
in Terry's face.
I mean, have I tried to do it in the past? Oh, yeah. You know, and he tries to flash all those 27 rings. And believe me, if they were to take 2 out of 3 in this series, I would never hear the end of it. But you know what? We're better than them. And we're better than them by a bunch. Go Bravos. See you tomorrow, Kelly. Oh, by the way, tomorrow our show will originate from Vanderbilt's campus.
Oh, wow.
Football,
Okay.
you know, practice stuff, all that kind of jazz.
Okay.
We'll talk, I would assume, with head coach Clark Lee. Hope to have quarterback A.J. Swan join us.
Okay.
Looking forward to it.
Sweet. I'm looking forward to it as well, George.
Okay. See you as well. See all of you tomorrow. Thanks for being with us.